So we all learn about super basic common crimes at a young age, like don't steal, don't do harm, and when you're watching WordGirl, that's pretty much the most that they can expect you to know when you're like 7 years old. Using my big girl brain, I've noticed a lot of instances when the person who's breaking the law is actually WordGirl, and today I'm gonna share them with you. And there might even be more out there sprinkled in the episodes. If you know some that aren't mentioned in this video, feel free to leave a comment and maybe there'll be a part 2. So let's get into all the crimes I'm officially, unofficially charging WordGirl with. First on the list is probably the one you're thinking of since it's the most obvious and is the main conflict of the episode. Theft. It's from the episode Wrong Side of the Law, and it follows the development of a major crime in the theme of a classic mystery drama, in which these priceless jewel-encrusted figurines are stolen. One is accidentally left behind, and Becky permanently borrows it until she's caught later on. I really like this episode, so I'll save most of the details for a future video. But yeah, she straight up steals it. On to number 2, Federal Aviation Administration violations. Now we're getting into the more not-so-obvious crimes. When WordGirl's running around town stopping bad guys or going on patrol, or even trying to get someplace quickly for Becky's convenience, she's not actually running around. She's flying. And when you're learning about aviation, one of the most important things you learn is sharing an airspace safely. With that comes with being in communication with air traffic control, which WordGirl never shows to do. Also, when you're dealing with airspace, there's what's called airspace class, which is where types of aircraft are allowed to fly. So something like a drone from the store can only fly at the lowest classes. And something like a commercial airliner can fly higher so it's not too loud and disruptive, but mostly to save on fuel since the air's thinner up there. WordGirl, however, flies at pretty much whatever class she wants. We've seen her hover above homes, fly over buildings, and even go into space. Okay, that one wasn't her fault. And not to mention, you need a pilot's license to fly in most parts of the world, and I don't know of any aviation school that's giving these out to 5th graders. On to number 3, destruction of public property. Imagine you're a citizen of Fair City, walking around after shopping or something, and you see WordGirl stopping a villain's crime spree. You may think, yay, the terror is over. And then you see WordGirl violently ripping out a brand new street lamp and use it to tie up the villain. Cool, now you're walking home in the dark. And maybe you fall into a hole and die, who knows. Also, I imagine taxes are insanely high in Fair City. You gotta fix everything all the time. On to number 4, vigilantism. Ideally, you would need an education and authorization to hold someone under the guise of being affiliated with the law, but WordGirl doesn't actually make the arrests. She's more like a vigilante that Fair City really likes and honors a lot with keys to the city, but it's not official. I feel like having a citizen honored for heroism can only happen a few times before I'm like, okay, so is she on the city's payroll or not? And we know she's not because in 8 Legs versus 2 Brains, WordGirl defines volunteer, explaining that she volunteers for the city to fight crime. And 2 Brains reveals that he thought she was on salary, which is actually super funny because if she was on the city's payroll, that would be another crime. Which leads us to the next charge on the list. On to number 5, official employment under the age of 14. Look, I know I just said that she doesn't officially work for the city, but if we take a little look-see at the hours she's working, she spends most of her time patrolling and stopping crime. We can assume this because in the series, she seems to be more WordGirl than Becky. She can claim she's volunteering all she wants, but I think we both know it's a little more than volunteering, which once again brings us to the next charge on the list. On to number 6, excessive school absences. It's not a WordGirl episode unless we hear a famous Becky excuse, so that she can sneak away to be WordGirl. I would imagine it's a near daily occurrence, which would mean that even though she's supposed to be in school for 8 hours a day, she's almost always missing a few hours. So if she's not absent, she'd at least be tardy to class. In the US, you're only allowed so many absences before the school makes you go to truancy court, which is as bad as it sounds. On to number 7, inciting a crime. In a few words from WordGirl genuinely tries to convince 2 Brains to commit a crime so that she would have an excuse to avoid something.
They're about to introduce me!
Oh, thank goodness.
But there's still time for you to save me, so I hope you'll do the right thing and commit a crime.
And because he actually commits the crime in the end, that's on her too, since legally she was the mastermind behind it. On to number 8, trespassing. In the same episode, she barges into 2 Brains' lair without probable cause. Yeah, you could argue that his maniacal laugh is an indicator of when he's scheming, but from what we learned in the Steven Deep Dive, we know he's just like that. And that's indeed the case. Poor guy can't even discover the wonders of homemade orange juice without some loud kid ruining his day. I do think that it's very cute that in her time of need, she goes to her former teacher to get her out of the situation. But in this video, I'm still charging her with the crime. On to number 9, destruction of private property. How many times have we seen WordGirl not only use public fixtures to defeat and capture villains with, but also sometimes private property? I couldn't find very many clips of this, but I know in my heart that she's done it before. Source, just trust me, bro. And finally, number 10. Also my favorite on the list and inspiration for this video. Use of a legal electric extension cord. In the episode Becky's Birthday, to take down the energy monster, WordGirl uses an illegal male-to-male extension cord to plug in the energy monster into the grid and to drain her power. The reason this kind of plug is illegal is because it's basically a live wire with complete access to deadly amounts of electricity that could go straight into your body. It's for the same reason that you should never stick a fork in a socket. So those are all the ones that I've noticed. I'm sure there's more super niche laws that she's accidentally breaking in the background, but yeah, it's just fun to think about. But also the writing constraints of WordGirl, like how a kid like her has such adult-like responsibilities, kind of make breaking niche laws inevitable. If I were to reboot WordGirl, I'd make this an issue in every single episode and see if the writers can get her out of those situations. Imagine a B-plot like, whoopsies, WordGirl missed the US income tax submission deadline, and she learns that pet armadillos are not tax deductible.